Professor Wilson and I are right here. If you see this little flag, we're here in Malaysia. We're actually following each other back and forth. We did our vlog a couple of weeks ago from Oxford University, but we're now here. I know why you're here, but tell everyone out there why you're here back in Kuala Lumpur.
So, I attended the World Islamic Tourism Conference.
You didn't attend.
Okay. I spoke at the World Islamic Tourism Conference about overcoming misconceptions to do with Islamophobia.
The one question I have is Islamophobia and its effect on tourism, specifically halal tourism or tourism to Muslim countries.
Okay.
How has Islamophobia affected tourism in Muslim countries? And if not, then tell me why, and if so, tell me why.
Okay, you know, one of the interesting things for me is that these words are kind of fluid. Like, you know, I've gone to a conference which is the World Islamic Tourism Conference.
That's interesting that they use the word Islamic.
Well, these guys went for Islamic. Other people have thought about Muslim friendly or Sharia friendly, which I don't know what Sharia friendly means, or halal tourism.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting debates there. I mean, one of the things that I was thinking about is that, like, you know, Islamic at the minute seems to be, as people think of it, as a toxic word, right?
Yeah,
so a lot of
I
Muslim countries think we don't use the word Islamic because it will frighten people, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought the other day, like, you know, you have Islamic art and people understand what that is, architecture, art galleries, calligraphy and stuff, and that doesn't have a problem. So I actually think that we're going to move into a cycle where maybe Islamic is a word that people don't understand or are a bit afraid of at the minute, so Muslim makes more sense, but then if there are more terrorism acts and all these kind of stories that happen in the media, Muslim tourism could go out of fashion and Islamic could come back, because then people will say, Muslims make mistakes, but Islam is pure. So I don't get too hung up on those technical words, right? Because
even as a branding guy, you don't think that you're really caught up in those words. I just want to press you on this because you're a branding guy, and words are important. So you're saying, to get, if I can you're saying that right now halal is in, but you feel that it probably may go out. Islamic will come back in, and then it'll go out again, or are you just saying that it probably may end up with Islamic?
Halal could go out if it's not supported with the right narrative and the right stories, right? So what happens is that, like, you know, a word could wear out because it no longer stands for those values and that promise and those trust elements and those principles that people associate with. If you can protect a word, it can last for a very long time, right? And you can claim that space. I actually think halal is a great word. Islamic has encountered problems because you've got, like, ISIS, you've got all these sorts of things.
But what about Islamic art? That doesn't have,
I'll tell you why Islamic art.
We're like completely deviating from my question of Islamophobia. We'll answer. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this short for you guys. So
Islamic art works for me because it's dealing with images, so people can see what's going on, right? And it's dealing with, so you're dealing with attractive images which are celebrating a certain mood. There's a heritage there, and people can engage and connect with that. And actually, there's a key message there. One of the things that I was basically saying is that Muslims don't use enough imagery to tell their stories. They use words or definitions or certificates, when actually, if you've got a really well-framed photograph, you've got some nice colors, and then you build a narrative around it, then you can define what that word is. And that's why some words shift, right? I mean, Google is a brand, right? The word Google existed before Google, but people don't know about it anymore, right? Apple, you know, all of these words have been claimed and then they've been framed and reshaped, and they're protected, and that is a branding strategy that allows you to then continue. Now, Islamophobia, I remember like 10, 15 plus years ago, people said, like, well, is there such a thing as Islamophobia, right? Isn't that just Muslims complaining and moaning about things? And one of the interesting things for me is that in 2017, I see mainstream media using the word like it's arrived, like, okay, we can now assume, okay, this is Islamophobia, is it not? Right? Those are the things that they start to say, whereas before there'd be a bit of a debate as to whether we could look at those things in that context. Can we compare Islamophobia with any of these other phobias, right? Like xenophobia or whatever. So it's super interesting because a Muslim country has invited me to come and talk about overcoming Islamophobia. Normally it would be a talk that we'd have in a non-Muslim or Muslim.
That's why I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to, like, actually present this in a vlog, because Islamophobia has it affected tourism in Muslim countries? Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? I mean, just the topic of it, I know people, I found it very interesting.
Yeah.
That is true. Like in terms of the way that Islam is being looked at by people or by outsiders, or how Muslims are being perceived by outsiders, how has that affected tourism to those countries?
It has an effect because people...
It has an effect.
It has an effect because
Okay.
people, you know, when you go on holiday, the last thing you want to do
Yeah.
is put yourself in harm
Yeah,
and
very
spend
true.
money and take risks.
Because it came to me to ask you, and actually,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you spoke about, but I started thinking of the Bali bombings,
Yeah.
you know, in Indonesia, and the adverse effects it had. You and I were invited to speak in Istanbul,
Yeah.
and some of the delegates and speakers didn't even want to come because they're scared of what's going on in Istanbul right now.
Yeah.
I was able to attend, and it was all safe, and things
Yeah.
get sensationalized in the media, and that's why you think, so it has had an effect.
Yeah.
And how do you think I mean, not we, but how do you think tourism to Muslim majority countries can overcome this Islamophobia, which has had an effect on their tourism and their tourism dollars or tourism currency?
Okay, it's tricky, but as you'd imagine, I have a toolkit, right? So, for example, when we look at France, when they had the whole bikini thing going on, and there was a backlash against Muslims wearing those things, Indonesia and the Muslim world, they missed a trick. They dropped the ball. They should have basically shown images of like how cool it is, and it's just something quite normal. I mean, it's not peculiar or suspicious or anything like that. And you do that through showing pictures. Like in my presentation, I'm going to give you the slides so you can kind of integrate them into this this vlog.
Okay.
You know, I've got a picture from one of my friends where she's surfing in Indonesia wearing a bikini, having a good time. When you see that picture, chances are you're not going to be mad at that person. But when you see the picture of this kind of framing of clash of civilizations
Yeah.
on a beach, taking away our values, this is absurd, and all of these comments that are surrounding it, it puts a darker element to what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So the challenge is that Muslims aren't putting out enough positive images to kind of wipe people clean.
Yeah.
Now, I don't entirely believe with counter propaganda and basically playing people at their own game and debating point by point. I think the first thing we have to do is we have to reject paradigms
Okay.
that are nonsense, right?
Okay.
As you were mentioning to us the other day, like, you know,
When you say we, you mean Muslims or the world, or?
we as in the people that are kind of got our heads screwed on in the right way, right?
Okay.
So I'm not meaning like we Muslims, I'm meaning like we,
Right.
you know, friends, family. If you dig what we dig, then
Got it.
basically that we, right? You know,
Got it.
got non-Muslim friends, got, you know, from all over, right?
Yes.
So we, the enlightened, let's say, right, the good guys,
Okay.
we need to reject those debates, right?
But I think we do. What about those who don't, right? Those who
Okay, well, let
are
me-
on the fence? Because
Let me give you a really good example, and I'll give you the slide on this one as well, right?
Okay.
You know, when they say Muslims are terrorists,
yes,
the stock standard response from any spokesperson or representative is Muslims are not terrorists.
yes,
Right? Now, according to my interpretations of psychology, the brain can delete the word not, and it works on association with the main concepts. It starts to see a pattern where, why is there a frequency of the word Muslim and terrorist being next to each other? Whether
Interesting.
you say not...
So even though you have that negating word, the association is being built through Muslim and terrorist, Muslim
Correct.
terrorist, even though there's a not there.
Correct.
So you-
And
got it.
I've got an example, like, you know, like when I'm lecturing, and someone could say, Prof, can I have a break? Can we have a break? And I've done it. I've tried this out. I've gone like, no, you cannot have a break. And part of the class will start getting up, the chairs will go back, and I said, you cannot have a break.
Yeah.
But their brain wanted so badly to have a break, and so the cognitive dissonance of trying to make sense of what
Yeah.
their desires are and everything, they hear, have a break.
Got it. Got it.
Another really good example is, it's a bit like, you know, when you have that unwanted attraction where someone says, like, you know, if one person loves somebody else and they say, you know, I love you, and you say, I do not love you, they hear, you love me a little bit though, don't
Yeah.
you? Like, you know, but you said my name and love next to each
Yeah.
other. Like, okay, so you don't love me, but what about tomorrow? Like,
Yeah.
or like, you know, it's very hard for people just to accept those pure facts. So we can't engage in a way where they set up this paradigm, and it's a bit of a trap, really. Muslims are terrorists. You can't say Muslims are not terrorists. The first thing you have to do is you need to disrupt behavioural norms.
Okay.
Get people thinking something different. So if they have a narrative which shows angry bearded guys
Yeah.
frowning.
Yeah.
You know, well, pink tie, having a good time, laughing. People go like kind of, okay. And I've got another slide where I said,
So you're just like complete disruption in the narrative.
yeah, you disrupt. It's a bit like Lewin's unfreeze, refreeze, right?
Got it.
So I mean, the other analogy would be like, you know, the unfreeze, refreeze model is like, if you have an ice lolly and you melt it, you can then put it into a different mold and freeze it again, right? And that's kind of what you want to do with people. So we need to melt them. They need to kind of soften up a bit, and then we can remold and reshape thinking, right?
Okay.
And the way to do that is through storytelling, giving emotional examples, using semiotics, not necessarily through reprogramming through explicit, like Muslims are like this, Muslims like that, because this is dealing with the unconscious on an unconscious level.
Right.
Consciously, even still, you don't necessarily want to explicitly tell people what to do.
Yes.
You want to nudge them in a certain direction, and that means through iterations over time. And so, what, you know, one of the things, I mean, there were basically, what I mentioned, that the Muslims are not terrorists, cognitive dissonance, I'll give you the slide to that, and then there's an idea of transactional analysis, which Byrne had a book on in 1964, which is getting people to think that there are about 5 different styles in which you can communicate the same message, in a very nurturing way, like a parent, a very critical way, an adult way, or a free child, or kind of an adapted, or kind of, you know...
So which one would you espouse? Which one do you think is...
I'm all about free child and nurturing parent.
So what would be an example of that?
Free child is like, hey, let's have fun.
Got it. Okay.
Critical parent is like, okay, pay attention, we're going to have fun. Nurturing child, I know you've worked so hard, so let's enjoy ourselves and have fun. Or,
but that's your style, man. That's your that's your style.
I guess the thing that people don't know is that when I started learning these concepts in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
During my MBA and also with sales training. And everyone has a kind of natural flair for like 2 out of 5. I learned all 5 styles. It's a bit like kind of, you know, when you think about Kung Fu, and you look at like Tiger style.
But one's just natural to you, and that's what you felt.
But then you have to rock all 5.
True. So you have to be, you might not be good in all 5.
Well, you have to, well, if you want to
But you're going to have ones that you incline to, and I can see why you incline towards that one.
So I would say, but then if you want to be a professional, you've got to rock all 5, right? Those are your 5 tools. You got to understand the context. So I can be super critical, or super nurturing, or very just plain adult. Take all of that kind of emotion and that kind of quirkiness out of there, and just deliver it straight. And the reason that you do that is because conversations are an interchange or a transaction, as was described by Byrne, and you need to flip styles if you want to control the conversation. Okay. Because if free child isn't working, then you need to rough them up and become a bit more critical.
So you're saying that I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No.
Okay,
that's good.
So basically, what's currently going right now needs to be disrupted and changed because it's not working, and that's what you think. And the correct solution or measure would have to be contextual.
Yes.
Okay.
Dynamic.
So thank you for tuning in, even though I'm wearing an Indonesian batik and we're here in Malaysia. We're signing out. I know that wasn't supposed to be so long, but it happened to be. We're here messing up someone's birthday party.
As you can listen, flip the camera because they should see this.
We'll show what's going on here. So we're like messing up. We're like proper loud. Everyone at the party is looking at us, but we just trying to deliver this vlog for you guys. Well, thank you so much.